Hello, very beautiful community. Health less good today, so we're going to do a reacts video. Tuck yourselves in. If you can't bear the look of Elon Musk, just come back and see me tomorrow. So let's press play and go.
And to put it really crudely and simply, any kid in Africa died because of the suddenness with which...
Zero.
I just don't think that's right.
Let's just stop it straight away. That zero is rehearsed, and when he says it, he's thinking of himself being looked at. So there's an element of narcissism there, and there's an element of delight in conveying a certain effect in the information environments, completely irrespective of the details here, right? The studies we've got so far, for instance, the Boston University Global Impact Center, suggests that already over 500,000 children have died. There's a Lancet study speculating impact into the future, talking about millions of deaths. So it's very difficult to put a number down, but whatever the number it is, it's in the hundreds of thousands or higher. It's certainly not zero.
I just don't think... I've had people reporting in Africa who...
How many NGOs are there that could step in? Because bear in mind, it was...
None that could step in and deal with the scale and the rapid nature of the transformation. Moreover, the NGOs were all themselves in crisis because they were dependent on bits of the chain of supplying medicine or delivering food that USAID was responsible for. So the NGOs were in crisis, and there's absolutely no facility, as Bill Gates warned ahead of time, to compensate for the calamity that was caused.
It happened quickly, and there are literally tens of thousands of NGOs.
Not everyone functions as fast as you do. If funding is
really
cut off
gentle
for antiretrovirals overnight, and it just stops, then people will die when they don't have access to them.
And we're not geniuses here about public policy by any means on the channel's beautiful community, but we said right at the beginning of this that this would be a diffuse humanitarian catastrophe, intentionally made.
No, only if they cannot get funding for that. But the Gates Foundation has $50 billion. What about them? What about any one of a number of organizations? What about
well, in lots of these countries, USAID...
Well, they don't even have the kind of global health infrastructure Gates has, and Gates did his best to negotiate this crisis. But that kind of capacity that he is talking about is magical thinking at about 17 different levels.
Her last name used to be Bezos. Gave $50 billion.
You can see he doesn't give a crap.
Let's be practical.
So there's a certain kind of absence there. So it's not just that he doesn't care about the consequences. He doesn't care what the number might be. You know, is it 500,000 children? Is it a different number? It's more than that. It's that he doesn't, in a kind of a post-truth way, he doesn't care about the fact that actions have consequences and consequences generate responsibilities, right? There's a kind of a fundamental evasion there that goes beyond the particular consequences here. And that's what takes us into post-truth politics. It's actually truth that's being denied here, not just a particular truth, but truth in general. And how do we place this beautiful community ideologically? I mean, we have this video on the main channel where we said that the ideological wash coming over us, of which Putinism and Trumpism are examples, is a very strange blend of hyper-neoliberalism, might is right, fascism, and monarchism. The idea that beyond institutions there is a plebiscitally legitimated monarch who gets to do what he wants because he's got a magical connection with the will of the people. How do we put what Musk is saying into these boxes, and should we? I think we should, because of course ideology is not a set of theoretical commitments, nor is it something that you consciously believe when you convey it. So Musk doesn't need to believe it to be caught up in it culturally. And so how is he caught up in this ideological wash? Well, at the level of the fascization, what you say is that there's complete indifference to not just the fate of those who are disappeared, but the truth about them. At the level of monarchism, it's this absurd entitlement to the privilege of decision makers to be decision makers even when they have no legitimacy. What the hell is Elon Musk doing in politics? Right? What the hell is Jared Kushner doing in politics? Who is this boy who's walking around negotiating stuff all the time? Negotiating with Putin, negotiating in the Middle East. How is he in politics? How does he have any more legitimacy to make decisions for the United States than you do? And then at the level of the hyper-neoliberalism, it's that those in power don't need accountability. If they have power, might is right. And don't irritate me by challenging me about this, Musk is saying, basically.
These countries, USAID was the biggest funder, but I don't want to have an
USAID
argument
was a political organization.
It may also have been...
USAID was also a political organization, and that was the problem. That, retrospectively, it's a very bad idea to mix saving lives with evangelizing American values and pushing the interests of US imperialism for better or worse. Because even if you think that every time USAID pushed US imperial interests, it was good, let's say it strengthened some kind of weak democracy, it's still a catastrophic blend with which to enter really choppy historical waters, right? Because it increases 10x your chances of being decapitated if you are blending together saving lives, right? And studies show that USAID saved 3 million lives a year, each year of the first 2 decades of this century. Right. You do that, but then you also engage in more political activity, and even if you were to justify that political activity, it's still an unfortunate constellation under the same roof, because then the 3 million lives saved a year get endangered when a Trump comes in.
But it was the biggest funder of healthcare systems. So I'm very
biggest
sure that there was
funder of regime change.
And there may well be benefits from having changed
also,
the system.
USAID funding was not stopped. It was moved to the State Department.
It was stopped. There were huge numbers of things shut down in Africa that were
No,
there
were
health
claims
related.
of this.
So we've just said that there are studies out there that give us a sense of the scale of the devastation, but also from my own personal life, my closest friend in the world runs an NGO. In my consulting work, I have guided people through crisis as a consequence of programs they were working on being shut because of the USAID collapse. So this is being felt as a kind of shockwave that the charity sector can't really compensate for. So even me sitting here on my bum in bed, I have been palpably exposed to these consequences in practice.
Claims are false. They're nonsense. Absolute nonsense. But-
look at the delight. Look at the delight in and viciousness in that kind of clarity. He's not saying it's nowhere near as bad as you say. He's saying there's no truth to it at all.
When funding is stopped for fraudulent organizations or for something, do you think they're going to say, well, please keep funding the fraud? Or do you think...
And I'm not going to legislate the Musk, neurodiversity story. I'm not going to talk about autism and ADHD and how they can interact constructively or unconstructively in this case. So I'll just speak generically, but folks who are neurodivergence informed will understand what I'm saying as well. Musk's problem here is that he is losing control over his brain. And he's got a situation where he's got runaway impulsivity and runaway prematurely settling because of the impulsivity monovision. That's how he gains grandiose certainty, for instance, about the nature of UK politics, even though he doesn't know anything about it, from 2 or 3 emails with some links to Twitter posts that some dodgy people from the UK send him. He sees that and then he thinks he's worked it all out. So this is a kind of village philosopher syndrome. He's got a set of reflective capacities. His brain is very good at pattern recognition, but he jumps from that to thinking that in 7 minutes flat, he can have certain knowledge about something he hasn't even begun to understand.
I'm going to come up with a sad story that sounds sympathetic in order to get the funding restored. Obviously, it will be the latter, and that's exactly what they did.
Sociopathy.
But 0 died.
He loves it.
Because
He loves
Right,
it.
right.
He's thinking of himself being looked at here.
0.0.
I actually have a lot of sympathy for the change.
And what age? What age would you give it? Maybe 4, maybe 6? This is not a 9-year-old saying 0. It's a much lower level of maturity, much more infantilized. Probably 4 to 7.
Of the aid regime that the US under the Trump administration has precipitated. However,
Yeah.
I think the pace and the suddenness with which it happened will almost certainly have caused unnecessary suffering and deaths. And I think both of those can
No,
be true.
I think that's totally false.
Okay. Well,
And
let's
Actually,
obviously false
softballing
because
him here.
there are the amount of funding we're talking about is far less than what can be done than what can be supported via private via foundations like the Gates Foundation or Mackenzie Bezos's foundation. She's given away tens of billions of dollars.
The total confusion of sort of seemingly plausible abstract claims with how things actually work in the real world. If the real world at hand is to do with stuff that Musk is doing, he'd have that grounded awareness. But when it's not, I don't care, right? If it's not reality on which my projects depend, I don't care about reality.
Okay.
Obviously,
All right.
0 people
He's loving
died
it.
because of Doge.
So that's our take, beautiful community.